I'll do it.
All right. I'm actually going to mute all. You might have to unmute yourselves, you two. Yeah.
Welcome, everyone. Please take a deep breath. Exhale completely. Receive another big breath. This time when you exhale, let your whole body get a little heavier on the earth. Feel the contact point between your body and whatever surface you're sitting on. Sink down, big breath in. On the exhale, feel the inside of your body become a little bit softer. Notice where your mind might be other than here, and just spend the next few breaths inviting yourself into present time. Feeling gratitude for the fact that the body, the physical body, can only ever live in this one time zone. So the idea is to get yourself inside of your body so that we can experience this evening's call from a place of presence. Bring one hand to your low belly, one hand to your heart. Seeing if you can tune into the rhythm that's moving inside of you. Feel your heartbeat, the power that exists inside of your body. Just take a moment to be aware of all the humans that are on this call tonight. As we become present with each other, may we feel into each other as one big collective group, that we're not experiencing this alone. May we feel a sense of belonging and community. May we feel blessed in that. One more breath. Exhale to let it out. Bring yourself back into the room. Maybe gaze at the other humans through the screen. A little smile. It's very nice to be with you all tonight. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for that, Leela. And welcome, everybody. Welcome to Uncivilized Unplugged. We have a wildly incredible evening for you tonight. The three of us have taught, myself, Leela, and Jeremy, a number of workshops together, and a number of workshops, just the two of us, but every year over New Year's, we get together as the three of us. And this year we're teaching something a little bit different. We're going through the three archetypes that we're going through tonight: the mystic, the warrior, and the poet. And so we're going to do some quick introductions for people who may not know one of us individually. And then we're each going to take a piece of that archetype tonight and share a little bit of it. Sound fun? Yeah. Leela, you are the mystic. So let's have you start maybe just a quick intro, and then we'll go around, and then we'll come back to you on the actual mystic. So who the heck are you?
My name's Leela Dilla, and I would consider myself a mystic. The main thing that I work on right now is building a women's community called the Heart Space. I'm really passionate about helping people, all people, but specifically women, connect back to the divinity within them, to a power that comes from within instead of an external source, and learning how to live deeply connected to themselves so they can connect to other people. And I'm passionate about people learning how to love wider and vaster and deeper and in a stronger way, because I think that's what our world needs now. So that's my main mission.
Beautiful. Thank you. Jared, how about you, brother?
I was smirking because, Leela, at some point your eyes were closed, but you were looking up, and your ring light was perfectly aligned with your glasses, and you looked like a weird alien creature, and it was fantastic.
It's a sign of the true mystic.
I was like, she really is channeling some higher level consciousness right now. I am a compassion cultivating, day making change agent. I'm an empathy collecting, anti-quitting word wizard. a ferocious never giver upper. I am a connoisseur and collector of fine silver linings, a recovering scientist turned life coach, podcast host, spoken word poet. My name is Dr. Jeremy Goldberg. Founded a business called Long Distance Love Bombs, which is all about making kindness cool and compassion commonplace. And I'm passionate about all of those things. I'm hard set and hell bent on trying to make the world a little bit better than it was yesterday, and trying to get people where they want to go. And I am feeling especially honored and grateful to be here tonight with my two good friends. It feels fun and collaborative and special, and I'm grateful for all of you for attending and listening to us rant and rave for an hour. So stoked to be here.
Thank you, brother. And for those of you who I don't know, my name is Traver Boehm. I'm the founder of the Uncivilized Movement, author of the books Today I Rise and Man Uncivilized, and the creator of Uncivilized Unplugged. This was before Zoom was a thing. And my mission is to end the suffering in men so that we end the suffering caused by men. And so I am radically shifting the paradigm of masculinity and the space that men get to occupy in the world. And doing that through a number of different means, which we can get into later, but really trying to combine the primal in men, bring back the primal, the clean primal, and add in the divine and some delicious consciousness. And I am obsessed with this archetype, the warrior archetype. And so I'll be chatting about that in a few minutes. But Leela, let's hear about the mystic. Why is this important to you first? And how do you see when people have it awakened in them, what happens to them?
Oh, the mystic. It changes people's lives. It gives them somewhere to actually belong in a world where we have endless intersections of how we don't belong. The mystic is someone that's extremely interested in the interior life, that's interested in getting to know yourself from a deeper perspective beyond just the body, beyond the mind, beyond what you do for a living, beyond your Instagram, beyond how much money you have, beyond your relationships. It's an inward dive into the world behind our eye. Like, who are we as our body changes? Who are we as the fluctuations of our life continue to roll out? And now more than ever, and in the last couple of years, I feel like my devotion to the mystical archetype has been the thing that's really brought me steadiness, because there's so much seemingly like constant upheaval in our culture and all over the entire planet. And so to me, diving into this archetype gives us like an internal fertile soil to root down into. It asks deeper questions like, why am I here on the planet? Who am I really behind all of these identities? What is my purpose here? What am I doing every moment? What are my devotions? What are my values? How do I empower myself? Where do I get my power from? Is it from approval of other people, or is it something that I can internally source from within my own heart? Do I actually know who I am on a deeper level? So the mystic asks all these questions, and I find that as soon as we do a deep dive and turn inward to ask these questions, we're gifted with answers. Sadly, we just don't live in a culture that's really oriented us back towards ourselves in a deep and sacred way. So most of us are guided externally and then end up kind of continuously dissatisfied with what we thought we should achieve or do to get the happiness and to find the satisfaction that only seems to be fleeting while we're here, because everything in this world is temporary. Even the most beautiful things, that's like the best and worst thing about life, is that everything changes. And so the mystic asks us to orient ourselves to something that's lasting and more true, something that's eternal, and something that's self-sourced. And to me, and I know I said over the last couple of years it's become really important, but this was kind of the start of my journey. I've been a little bit existential from the beginning. Like, what am I doing here on the planet and why? And that's just catalyzed my whole path of yoga and breath work and all the things I bring to this retreat. But is that enough? T, you're shaking your head. Should I shift?
Yeah, that was good, Leela. You're always good.
Thanks,
I
Jared.
always enjoy speaking to you. I was going to interrupt because Traver Bum, do you want to go next? Because based on what you will say, that might influence my interpretation of what I will say.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah, I'd love to. And I'm also going to add, folks, at the end of this, after we riff for a bit, we're going to leave a good amount of time for Q&A. So yeah, I'm talking about the warrior archetype. And I've thought a lot about it in the past 2 weeks because when I was maybe 16, I got a hold of a book called The Martial Way by Forrest Morgan. And just this week reached out to him to see if he'd come on the podcast. But I read that at 16 as a completely lost human. And there were so many pieces of that book that just instantly landed. This idea of discipline, this idea of service, this idea of boundaries, of loyalty, of sacrifice, of like living for something bigger than yourself, and then having that on a day-to-day as kind of a friction point of, it was a completely different way of looking at the world. And this was so impactful to me that you guys have probably seen this and I've forgotten it because I wear it every day. But I was 22, I got that tattooed on me, which is the Japanese word for Bushido, which is the way of the warrior. And so I think this is so important now more than ever, because this is the feeling that when people adopt this feeling, it's, I'm going to be okay in the world. The world may not be okay. And right now I would challenge that the world is not quite okay. There's a lot of things that don't feel okay. And rather than trying to run around and end the war in Europe and change gas prices and stop the division and fuckery that seems to be commonplace, I would need to focus on what I can do. And to get people into their bodies and into this idea, this is one of the main maxims of the uncivilized nation, is let others be safe for I walk among them. Now, when you adopt that mantra, let others be safe. Like if I walk into a room, I'm not going to wink at everybody, but energetically, I'm going to be like, you're going to be safer because I'm in here. Now, is that egoic? Is that like, I've got everybody's okay because of me on my t-shirt? No, it means I probably went to fucking therapy that week, because first and foremost, I need to make sure that I'm not a problem. I'm not the danger. I'm not the one who's going to be reactive, but will instead be responsive. So I find that working with people on this, and this is both men and women. Gosh, if anybody thinks this doesn't apply to women, just take a look at Iran right now. We could take this whole talk. I just got chills saying that word. We could take this, I could take my whole talk and just show videos of people in Iran, of women in Iran saying, this is not okay. How things are not okay. And I'm not going to sit on the sidelines and watch things not be okay. I'm actually going to get in the fucking fight. I'm going to get beat up. I'm going to get marred. I'm going to get bloody. And that doesn't have to be, you know, a political stance. It doesn't have to be a physical stance. It's more of an attitude and a washing over of, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to make sure the person on my left is okay. The person on my right is okay. I'm going to have healthy boundaries. Like just that. Imagine if everybody in the country had healthy boundaries. Man, we'd be selling a lot less junk food and pharmaceuticals. But I digress. I could go on for another hour. To me, this is about a heartfelt way of living that's taking both strength, love together and melding them, and then letting people adopt that and wear it and live it day to day. It's my boom stance on the warrior.
Love it.
How about you, brother poet? Did that shift your talk? Did I just fuck up your talk?
You can't fuck up.
Like, I don't know what to say now.
Will you do this for me? Just for a second. Will you like deep thoughts?
Yeah. Now that I'm thinking about it, Traver, that's interesting because I never know what your tattoo was. Like I've
Me
known
neither.
you for years and years.
Yeah. Bushido.
Cool. Yeah, that's dope. Okay. Poet. I'm the de facto stand-in representative of poet. And to me, poetry is alchemy. Poetry is taking pain and transforming it into art. Taking Thank you. Whoever
They're on mute
grunted.
myself, so I don't use the phone through your whole talk.
Ooh, got him.
Mute button on the top.
Geez.
Fucking hell, man.
Taking hang on. It's taking pain and turning it into art, right? We've all heard a good love song. We've all read something supremely impactful that helps us to feel less alone in the world, helps us to feel normalized by how we are feeling or what is going on in our systems. And so to me, poetry is alchemy. It's the transformation of feelings into language and then communicating those through a voice all your own that is unique and profound and special. And so one way that I view these three archetypes is that, well, first of all, we have all of them internal always. So we are all, each of us, like the Breakfast Club, right? The ending of the Breakfast Club. You're the princess and the bully or the bad guy or whatever. So we're each a poet, we're each a mystic, and we're each a warrior. And one way that I view that is through this kind of three-step approach that I take when working with clients, which is awareness, acceptance, and action. And so to me, the mystic, and to Leela's description before, was about cultivating an awareness inside of who we are and what we want and what we don't want and how the world works. And then I viewed the poet as the acceptance component, which is transitioning those sensations internal into a unique voice and speaking that out into the world. And then the warrior archetype that Traver so powerfully described to me is about action. It's about, okay, here's what I want. I've spoken that out into the world. And now what am I going to do about it? How am I going to defend those wants and desires? How am I going to stand up? How am I going to take up space? Right. And if you've read books or articles, you know that they talk about the writer's voice, right? Like their voice is unique. And I really like the idea that you could read a piece of writing from an individual and it has their voice in it. And I think that's a really powerful thing. And it takes a while to refine. But it's analogous to showing up day to day in your own life and your own experiences with your own unique voice that is uniquely you, right? That has your essence, that has your spirit, that has your fight inside. And so when you walk into a room, it's like you're showing up with your voice, which is a representation of your awareness and which is being broadcast through that warrior ethos of, here's what I've created and here's what I desired. And I'm going to speak that and I'm going to stand up for that. And I'm going to cheerlead and champion my voice because I believe enough in myself and my desires to speak that truth. So I think that's how I see it. I think poetry kind of has a stigmatized place in modern society that it's like you walk around a flower bed and you cuddle on silk pillows and you write soft, sweet nothings about clouds and unicorn tales. But to me, it's much more medicinal and therapeutic. It's about, it's a healing modality. Yeah. So that's what I'm about. I hope that makes sense.
It's quite poetic, brother.
Great.
Quite poetic.
Yeah,
Quite
was it quite? Well, thank you.
Yeah, last year when we did this retreat, I remember you saying, I believe it was you said to make your life your argument. And that, I think it was towards the end of the retreat. Was that you that said that?
Yeah, I quoted, somebody had that. Trav, do you remember who that was?
Yeah, I've
And
got
I
My
remember-
life is my argument.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I
shit.
just like, I love how you tied these three archetypes together because it really, like, if and when we live that way, meaning I know who I am really deeply. I know how to articulate who I am really deeply, and then I stand by that. Like we become powerful people, we become trailblazers, and we become really impactful in the way that we live our lives, regardless of what our career is. And I love that you just braided the three archetypes into that, because I feel like that is what we do when we teach this, and what people will get from this experience with us too.
And I think too, when those three are aligned, and we've all met these individuals, it's like, oh shit, like they got something going on. Like they know who they are. They speak that without any fucks given. with power but humility at the same time, and they stand up for what they believe in. Like there's a kind of special sauce that goes on with those kind of individuals, right? It's striking and it's palpable in my experience. So getting those three aligned on the same path, I think, is crucial towards living a life of integrity, but also an existence of fulfillment at the same time, right? And if you have two out of the three, so I've heard it described as like if you're very creative, if you're very mystical, and you're very poetic, but you lack that cheerleader or champion warrior archetype, then your voice is never going to be heard. Your impact is never going to happen. Your actions are not going to arise any kind of profundity, right? And so we each, I think, can recalibrate those at different points in our lives, or potentially even in different places in our lives. And it's eternal. It's just ongoing. Albert Schweitzer, that was him.
Yeah. Leela, have you seen The Breakfast Club?
See anything.
What?
Okay.
Really?
You know not to ask me this. I've seen like zero, nothing.
Just aged myself, I feel. Has everybody seen The Breakfast Club? Is that like, I thought that was a pretty common reference.
I just haven't seen anything.
it's
You know
just-
this. When people ask me if I've seen something, I'm like, whoop, I gotta walk.
I think it's good though that we give homework on this call so that people like do walk away with something tangible. And I would like to recommend, if you haven't seen The Breakfast Club, it is a phenomenal movie.
It's a classic.
Classic.
And then at the end of it, after 2 hours, you'll be like, oh, I know what Jared was talking about now. That makes sense, that thing that he said.
Well, someone also popped the link in for the workshop. Someone please put in manuncivilized.com/the-awakening.
Mm-hmm.
Before we hit Q&A, I would love if each of you would give a little bit of a teaser of like, what's something that people on the call can walk away with, like not a technique or a tip, but Leela, how do you, if we said you have 2 minutes, I want you to get everyone in touch with the mystic archetype, what would you have them do? And Jared the same, and I'll do the same after her.
Interesting.
I would say that spend a little bit of time every single day sincerely contemplating reality. Like actually sit with yourself or walk outside, or ideally you're in nature, but I would come to a place every single day where you quiet the mind, take a couple deep breaths, and actually try to connect with who you are. And if you don't know who you are yet, and that's not something you haven't done, then it starts with inquiry. Like, who am I really? Who am I really? Who am I really? And start taking deeper breaths. The breath guides us into a very internal and profound sacred center that we all have access to. We practice breath work at this retreat hugely, and it's a really powerful practice. So, but even just taking one breath can reconnect us back to the present moment. So take time every single day and practice some sort of devotion or inquiry practice, but with sincerity, not like it's a joke, not because I told you to, but with an actual curiosity of who you are at a deeper place.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, that was good.
Good one. I would say for the warrior, first of all, watch these 2 movies. They are insightful. Commando and Last of the Mohicans. One will give you the American version. The other will give you just a different feel of that archetype. And then male or female, this is an easy one. It may sound trite and people may not get it or be like, that's dumb. Knock out 20 push-ups. And then go walk around your house, then go walk around your office, then go walk around with people, and ask yourself this question. If something were to go awry here, what would I do? And then feel everything that comes up around that, right? If you see a car accident, if someone knocks on your door really loud and you're scared in the middle of the night, what would you do? What would you draw upon if it were only you there who could engage in the situation? And just feel the friction between perhaps the smaller, more scared part of you. But if it was only you and you were the one that had to rise into that, just feel that for a moment. And again, let your body be engaged. I don't care if you do this from your knees or you do them from your feet. If everybody just rips out 20 push-ups, something happens to your body. Something happens to your heart rate, a little bit of adrenaline, like, wow. Just the reminder that you're still alive and that you're in a physical body. And again, this goes both men and women. I remember teaching self-defense in an ashram, and it was 80% women, 20% men. And at the end of it, it was primarily the women who, two things. One, were like, when do we do the like thumb in the eye, like pop the eyeball out, bite the ear off? And it was like, calm down, namaste. But two were the ones saying, gosh, it felt so good to actually remember that I'm fucking strong. These were people from 4'0" to taller than me. But just to remember that, yeah, you do have a body. And one of my coaches, Tony Blauer, refers to his body as his human weapon system. And I sometimes like to think about that as well. Like, how's my human weapon system doing? Jer?
Right, the lead in. I think my suggestion would be to pay closer, more explicit attention to the words that you use and the language that you use day in and day out. In particular, the way that you communicate to yourself. So words are powerful things. And if you marinated every day in self-talk that was critical, judgmental, unkind, that is going to influence how you are in the world. That is going to influence your voice. Versus if you are exposed to a perpetual smattering of beautiful words and encouraging and uplifting language internal. And if you choose different beliefs that are more inspiring and engaging, that's going to affect you. And so that's just the internal stuff. The external stuff is being cognizant of how you describe yourself and the ways that you have learned to stay small or avoidant or distracted from your truth and your power, right? And there's a big difference between describing yourself as, you know, oh yeah, I'm kind of excited about turtles versus I am fucking obsessed with turtles, right? It matters. Or I'm feeling pretty strong versus I am powerful, right? So the words that we utilize subconsciously shift everything about us. And they also influence people around us in terms of how they perceive us. So they can be hugely transformational in terms of creating opportunities or pushing away opportunities. So yeah, on the poetry vein and using your voice, I think I would grab a magnifying glass and set some intentions to sort of calibrate and repair the talk that you have day in and day out. It'll change your life.
Beautiful. Thanks, brother.
Great.
Before we shift to that and talk a little bit about the workshop itself, are you guys getting how the trifecta of these work together? Leela brought this up when we did a live a couple of days ago, and this is going off of Dewey Freeman's attachment model, which we don't need to get into, but the basic 3 building blocks of being okay as a human are, is the world okay? And that seems to be what the mystic cult taps into, right? I've seen so often, Leela, when, and know personally, like when I have a deep practice, when I'm engaged in my practice, when I'm meditating, when I'm connected, when I'm doing ceremony, everything's going to be okay. Everything feels like it's going to be okay. When I am training, when I am engaging with my body, when I am eating healthy, when I am getting up early, when I am doing cold baths, when I am doing wrestling a bunch, I'm okay. I can handle whatever the hell comes at me. And then Jeremy, the next piece is, what can I do and how well can I do it? And fuck, isn't that like the $1 million question that so many of us are grappling with or have had to grapple with at some point? Right? Like, why am I here and how the heck do I serve? And I feel like that's the stacking of these 3 archetypes on top of each other is just such a powerful, not combo, but whatever the word is for 3. And I remember, Leela, at the last, or both of you after Costa Rica last year, we thought, what if we did this? And just getting goosebumps everywhere and feeling like, okay, this is powerful. This is really, really powerful. So I hope this is landing. We're going to go into Q&A in a second, but I hope it's landing that, like Jeremy said, that when you have all 3 of these, there's something magical that happens exponentially more so than when you have 2 or have 1. Yeah, that makes sense. Beautiful. All right, Leela, you want to chat a little bit about the workshop? Take people on a little journey.
I'd love to. Retreats will change your fucking life. They will just change your life. If you haven't been on one, or you haven't taken time out of the way your life normally goes to step into a curated experience for your healing and your transformation and your empowerment, it is really hard to use words to describe what happens at these things. I went on my first retreat when I was 17 to Costa Rica, and it completely altered the way that I have lived my life. And I've been leading them since 2014. And every single time, every single person leaves different than they arrived in the best ways. We've had people, the first one we did of these, a woman came up to us and said, we thought we were in trouble. Actually, I don't know if you guys remember, but we were like, oh God, what do we do? And she was like, I would have paid 3 times as much to be here for this. And we were like, whoa, we didn't even realize how impactful it was to have this collaboration. But just the act of choosing a week or a weekend, however our experience is 7 days together, for your own well-being, your own reconnection, your own restoration, your own rejuvenation, your own transformation, and just being with people that are of like mind, of open heart, or of kindness, are interested in the same things. If they come to this, they're interested in the same things. Your conversations are so different. The eye contact you make is different. The food you eat is different. The place you're in is different. And you're being guided by 3 people who do this for a living, who you pay hundreds of dollars to have 1 hour on a fucking phone call, and you get an entire week with us, eating food with you, talking to you, laughing with you, crying with you, walking the beach with you, zip lining with you. It is profound. I have a hard time encapsulating it. And we're going to the most epic place. We're staying in tree houses, literally in the middle of the jungle in the Dominican Republic. I've been to this place. I went to check it out because I don't like to take people unless I've been there. And it hands down is one of the coolest places I've ever been. You're sleeping in an open air treehouse in the middle of the jungle. Jungle sounds all around, with a beautiful pool, suspension bridges, 10 minutes from this gorgeous, like, secluded beach with huge rocks all over the place. It's insane. Just going to sit in nature like that for 7 days will completely change your perspective on what's important and what you like to do every day that isn't scrolling on your phone and being distracted and going to the store and cooking for your kids and doing all the stuff we typically fill our time with. So there's so many significant elements separately that would completely change who you are, and we compound them together inside of this great workshop where every day you don't have to worry about anything. Your meals are cooked for you. We have a beautiful schedule that's filled with free time and also really in-depth workshops with us, whether you're working with us individually or you're working with us together. We do breath work. We have some sort of movement practice, meditation. I think I've covered everything.
I want to add one piece that was amazing.
Yeah.
Jeremy and I are taking the guys for a day. Mm-hmm. We're going to be doing specific men's work for the day. You're going to get the women for a day. This is going to be really unique. And then we are going to come back together. That's something that we've done at other workshops, but not together. And that in itself is wildly powerful. Yeah. To have men separate doing men's work, to have women separate doing women's work. And so often, what does that happen? We have it in separate workshops and then we go away. And then there isn't a reconnection or a recoming together. So I am so excited for that piece of this specifically. And I think we actually may have more guys signed up already.
Where my ladies at? Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's also like elements of the retreat that are special that people don't think about. Like, we do silent mornings.
Oh, God bless them.
And it's so lovely to wake up naturally early, have the best coffee ever, or whatever it is that you drink in the morning. If you're not as great as we are, you might drink tea, but coffee or cacao or something like that. And you actually have time before you're hitting the ground running into your stressful life to just be with yourself. I've had people be like, literally just the time in the morning, and then moving into some sort of ritual practice that is deeply connecting, just changes things. Then we do breath work, like transformational breath work. We're doing that at least 2 times, we've had people be like, nothing happened, but I met God. And it's like, Good. That's what we were going for. And we last year, which is one of the reasons we pulled these 3 archetypes, is that like out of nowhere, we just had these incredible like open mic nights because Jeremy had these great array of incredible poets came.
Yeah.
And we had people singing and doing spoken word, and we were crying every night watching these people share their hearts with us in a way that you just don't see in the everyday world. So that'll be a beautiful element too.
Thank you.
And then we play a lot. It's fun.
Jerry, you wanna add anything to that?
I think I would just add what I said on that podcast that we did a couple of days ago, which was simply from a very selfish perspective, I only run events that I want to attend. Like we have to go there too. And so this place is bananas. It looks absolutely fucking bananas. There's waterfalls and zip linings. I remember when we were planning these things, like I want to go to a waterfall. I want to go zip lining. So selfishly, we've created an experience that we want to go to in places that we want to go to with food that we want to eat. So yeah, it's very different than Spain, Jen M. Jen's, I do a 10-day, 200-kilometer walk in Spain that is vastly different than this.
And we have a New Year's party.
Yeah.
There's a New Year's dance
I have been
party.
watching YouTube dance videos of whatever that like 8-year-old. Yeah, like it's gonna be epic. Yeah, I've got my hips feel loose and already.
That actually, listen, Traver, you don't see yourself dance, but Jeremy and I and anyone who's been on this retreat, watching Traver dance for New Year's and just dance during the other opportunities to dance is worth coming on this. I was thinking about that today. There's a really incredible deck where we'll do our New Year's Eve shindig, and I was visualizing you dancing too and was getting very excited about it.
So, I mean, just a little more advanced this year. I would just say like hold on to your knickers.
Oh, it's so fun. And you wake up the next day feeling great because you're not hungover.
We're not hungover. All right, someone throw the link in the chat again, and let's start taking some questions. I think Joshua, you had a question you'd love to ask, and then anybody else, please just raise your Zoom hand, and we'd love to chat.
Hello.
Good evening.
Oh,
Good evening. No, I was this is a new kind of archetype thing for me, thinking about this way. And I know you're touching about having them all, but like, do you find yourself, I suppose we're all just naturally inclined to one. Do you move into others at different times of your life, times of the day, different scenarios? You're probably not like, okay, now I'm going to put the poet mask on, but maybe you do. How does that work? Do you bounce back and forth between the two, or?
Beautiful question. Usually I think, and Leela and I both are huge Carolyn Mace dorks. And she says you're walking around with about a dozen, right? At any given time, just think of how many, you have the father archetype. Everyone has a child, she'd say. Everyone has the prostitute archetype, a victim archetype, and a saboteur archetype. That's universal. And then you may have other ones depending on who you are, how you constellate, and what your life is like. But having access to these really is what we're after here. So it's not foreign to you to have the mystic if you didn't have it in you. It's not foreign to you to have some embodied experience of what a warrior would feel like. It's not foreign to you to do what Jeremy's going to do with the poet and use your words in a way to create the story of your life that's different than it is now. But there are times, specifically just to answer your question, when you may need to just draw on one, or times when you're sort of navigating all of them. Leela, you have a further thought, or Jerry, you have a further thought on that?
I have a thought on it just because I like the way that Carolyn Mace describes archetypes, that they're these almost like cosmic energies at play, these patterns in which our soul gets to express while we're down here in our human form. And the way that she says it is that depending on which archetypes we animate naturally, or we have 12 archetypes that we naturally animate. And I like the word animate because there are archetypes that just don't light us up. Like I am not so many archetypes, but I have a teacher archetype. I can slide into that role and animate it really beautifully. So there are ones that like you can almost feel your energy flow into it and move through you when the moment calls on it. And for me, the word animate just like really lands. I'm like, oh, I can like feel it light up. And I believe we're actually kind of we have all of them all the time, but we're animating one at a time, dependent on the circumstance.
Love bombs,
Thank you.
Dad.
Mhm.
Yeah, I view it similar. If you've heard in the personal development space, they often talk about like a toolkit that you can rely upon. So maybe you've got your meditation and your therapy or your exercise, journaling, etc. And so there's these various resources that you can utilize depending upon the circumstance. I view that similar here, where there are times in life when it's like, okay, like I gotta put my fucking axe in my hand and go to battle for this idea or for this relationship or for this anything really, right? And so you need to really access that warrior archetype. And in the same way with the personal development stuff, if you have no idea how to journal, meditate, go to therapy, whatever, then your potential options are severely limited, right? And so in that world, so what's the line when you have a hammer, every problem looks like a nail, right? And so you're limited in terms of your resources, but also the opportunities that you're creating for yourself. And here, what we're describing is sort of a analogous to that, whereby if you can access the poet, the warrior, and the mystic, and you're fluent in those identities or in the ways that those are animated, to use Leela's expression, then you have more ability, right? You have more options given the circumstances. And this is pretty common, like with musicians, for example, if like when they hit the stage, like they're a different person or they put on a different outfit. Like one thing that I do, I have like a hat that I use when I'm speaking, and I've like trained myself. It's like when this speaking, it's a normal hat, but for me, it's not. It's like, it's my speaking hat. And so when this thing is on, it's like, yo, I'm a badass professional world-class public speaker. And it's like the poet archetype is like encaptured by this literal tangible artifact that I can visualize. And I find that to be super helpful. And you could represent that in sweatpants or bows and arrows or whatever you utilize, but or a song. I've got songs that I play when it's like, okay, like it's go time, right? So I think that's what we're envisioning here, is just trying to develop a greater fluency with the various pieces and parts of our internal landscapes, and to sort of familiarize yourself with that terrain, so that when you're forced by life or circumstances to inhabit those spaces, it doesn't feel overwhelming or terrifying or scary. It's like, oh yeah, here we are again. Like, I got this. I got me. We're good.
Thanks, man. Joshua, that
Good
good?
question.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would say, just to add, for anybody who's, especially people who work for themselves, entrepreneurs, coaches, speaker, anyone in our space, if you're going to take something from a conceptual idea to bringing it out into the world, you're going to need these three. You're going to be connected to something bigger than you to have a reason why you're going to fuck your life up and go try to be an entrepreneur or a coach or a writer or a speaker or whatever. There are days when you're going to have to get up and be like, all right, I got to go to battle with resistance. I'm going to war with every thought in my head that says like, please, you shouldn't do this. You shouldn't, this is dumb. We should go back to accounting. We should blah, 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 blah. And then the poet of, okay, how now do I influence? How do I influence myself with my own words and my own stories? But how do I influence everybody around me? How do I get this idea into the collective? So I would imagine if we looked back through all of our careers, which have fortunately been together for much of it, that we've each had to draw upon them consistently and heavily.
So
Somebody
like
else.
moving through the can't to
Yeah.
get to the piece of like, maybe I just haven't met that part of me yet. I haven't explored that part of me yet. That's going to let me crush this thing that so far that boundary feels like a can't, but really it's just a courage to kind of step through it and embrace newer parts of you.
Yeah, and Josh, if it hasn't been initiated yet, like
Yeah.
so much of I believe archetypes need to be initiated, because Leela used the word like animated, right? But it helps so often to have someone help you animate it. With that, Leela, you want to riff on that for a minute?
Yeah, I was just thinking too, like these could also just be gateways into further dimensions of who you are. Like not everybody has the complete mystic. I heavily identify with that, but that's also been nurtured over time. And I really feel that that's something I animate. But for you, that could be, the window of the mystic could bring you into layers of who you you didn't feel worthy of being when you were younger, or parts of yourself that have been previously rejected and abandoned on the sidelines. So these archetypes just give us these doorways to walk through for bigger, more permission, like you said here, a deeper self-understanding, and then also avenues of how to bring who you really are, your truth, out into the world through an avenue that's not going to look like Traver, Jeremy, or I. It's going to be this like bigger lens that can give you different dimension and layers, and a robustness that's unique to your expression this life. So this is almost like there's so many layers through these doors, and we're just kind of paving the way.
Yeah, if I could just add to that from my perspective, Joshua, you used the phrase, it feels like a can't, right? And I would offer some ideas to consider. Would be like, okay, now tell me if it felt like a could or a can, right? Like, tell me how it feels like a can, and go play in that space for a little bit. Or also talk to me hypothetically, not like in this moment, but like, tell me about how that can't benefits you and keeps you safe. And tell me about how that feeling like a can't prevents you from feeling things you don't want to feel. Like, name me the feelings that those things are protecting you from, right? That phrase is keeping you safe and comfortable from, right? And so that's just one very quick off the top of my head example of the power of language and how it can potentially be utilized in conscious and subconscious ways to keep us safe, comfortable, the same, right? And I hope that comes across like compassionately and non-judgmentally. It's just a hypothetical.
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Cool. Yeah.
Beautiful. We have time probably for one more. I know we're coming up on the hour. Anybody else? Anything at all about you heard tonight?
Anything. Yeah, about anything.
You got the three of us live. Let's rock and roll. Who's scared to ask and needs to animate their warrior?
It's the warrior, Trav. Call him forward.
I'm just gonna point to somebody.
I would add that every retreat, I have had people come up to me and be like, "Oh, Trevor's not as intimidating as I thought he was." Have you heard that, Jer, too? And you've probably been told that, Trav. I feel like at these retreats specifically, people were like, "Oh, well, I like hanging out
Teddy
with
bear,
him."
my partner's on here. She'll say it, right, Katie? Say it.
I've literally been told by people, quote, Traver is the most intimidating person in my life. Or like, I'm more scared of Traver than anybody. But then I've also witnessed, this is maybe a funny, relevant story. So Traver and I years ago did a retreat. Do you know where I'm going with this?
No.
We did a retreat in Arizona, and my partner, Kendra Dachi, was the chef, and she was around frequently. And she's about this big. She's a tiny little Asian woman. And at the very end of the event, we did a gratitude circle with everybody at the retreat, and you get in the middle and you're just bombarded with compliments and praise. And my partner, who's this big, is in the center, and Traver says to her, "You're kind of intimidating, Kendra." and so Traver is not that intimidating. Like, Traver's intimidated by my partner. So
she's intimidating, dude.
She is very intimidating. Yeah. So Traver is like cuddly and a teddy bear, and has
You're
a lot
lucky
of
you'll get to go
different
zip lining
versions.
with them.
I'm not a fan of heights. The warrior archetype does not apply to heights. Heights are for fucking nobody. Nobody should be up that high. Just want to put that out there. Yeah. Not a fan of heights.
Yeah.
Any last question before we hop off, folks? We would love to have you on. We would love to have you join us. We're also going to be doing anybody who joins in the next 48 hours, please use this coupon code unplugged, all capital. And we're going to be doing a coaching call with each of us with whoever joins. So please also know that's on the table. We want to best support you in every possible way that we absolutely can. Yes. UNPLUGGED.
Bring the kids.
Bring the kids.
I say yes to kids.
Shit.
It will be all of the ruined for everybody.
Oh,
That's fair. That's fair.
Great.
All right,
line.
gang. If we don't have any more questions, thank you so much for joining us. We hope you got something out of it. We know you got something out of it. Please play with these archetypes. Please play with them. And if this workshop isn't for you or isn't something that you can do, please send people our way, people that you know could benefit from working with the three of us and just being, like Leela said, in that container. That is the absolute magic that we can't get across on a Zoom call. We can't get across on a sales page, but you feel it the moment you walk in and we do the deep breath of the opening circle and people just know, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. And you too. Love you both. See you soon.
I love you. Thanks for being here, everyone.
Have a great
Hope it
night,
was
folks. We
good
appreciate
people.
you. Cheers.